Let's talk about where all these problems in our lives come from.
A lot of times we might be asking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? And there's a great deal of emotional pain and suffering that happens just from having that question in our mind. We start wondering, am I being punished? Did I do something wrong? Does God not love me? I mean, believe me, when you start digging in, we can find that there's all kinds of questions like that dancing around in our minds that we may not even be fully aware of. It just leaves us with a sense of unease and questioning ourselves and reality and not really understanding what's happening in life. So that's why we say half of the healing is comprehension. So this part of comprehension has to do with where do these problems come from to begin with. So we could say that these problems come from our karma. Our karma is related to material that's in the subconscious mind and the causal plane. And it is all about the repercussion of actions once taken forward into time, leading to what we call compounded momentum. And in the written materials in this course and the graphics and everything else, you're going to get more and more details about how all of this works. So if that seems like a mouthful right now, don't worry about it. We're going to be going deeply into it. Suffice it to say, for the moment, that there are ways that these imprints, these karmic imprints that we might call samskaras, or we might call neural pathways, or we might call ways of thinking, which lead to further action and choices, get into our subconscious mind. The four main ones that we're going to visit today are past lives, ancestral lineage, early childhood, and cultural conditioning. Now, if you're someone who doesn't believe in past lives, that's fine. Many, many people in the world do believe in past lives. And so let's just imagine for a moment that that might be true. So we've had lifetimes in other planes of existence, maybe even other planets, maybe other timelines, other lifetimes on this planet. And we've done certain actions in those lifetimes, maybe not totally consciously, because the whole entire thing about being a soul and going into a body on a planet means a certain amount of forgetfulness of our spiritual source is going to take place. And because of that forgetfulness, we start operating out of varying degrees of what we call ignorance. And that ignorance leads us to making choices that we wouldn't have made if we were not ignorant. It's just part of how creation is. This experience has been constructed with that ignorance built in. So we could even have the experience as an individuated being and learn and grow. We also have what we call passion. So our ignorance and our passion sometimes cause us to do things we wouldn't have done if we were not so passionate about something, whether it's negatively passionate or positively passionate. That's sort of the running in like a bull in a china shop, headstrong, headlong, without thinking before acting kind of stuff. And all of those things in any of these levels cause repercussions into time because one action leads to another action, leads to another action. And if you think of one action done by one person, say yourself, however many people were impacted by that action or witnessed that action and then had an opinion about it and then shared that opinion to others and then did or didn't do certain things in relation to you because of all of these opinions, and then opinions get passed on to others who then interpret it differently. So the whole telephone game might happen. And all of a sudden you've got all kinds of things happening or not happening in your experience because of this one action. So we can start to see how this compounds and builds even in one lifetime, but over time in one lifetime, over time in many lifetimes. And so our past life imprints that we have not cleared and cleaned and done our forgiveness and our healing work on would naturally repercuss into this lifetime to be rectified here and now. And the repository of the energetics of that would be in what we call the subconscious mind or the causal plane. And the action of karma includes the repercussion and compounded momentum into this lifetime of a similar pattern. until it's resolved, of course. Now, the same thing can occur with our ancestral lineage. Let's just imagine all the actions our ancestors took, and just imagine all the thinking, emoting, acting that they did that was good, bad, or otherwise, that impacted others positively, negatively, or otherwise. Now, of course, we have what we call good karma, right? Actions repercussing into time that cause goodness and positive things to appear. So it's not all negative. However, we do have a backlog of experience in our ancestry where people were fighting and having wars with each other and not getting along and having really dominant hierarchical systems that caused people to feel less than fully worthy, or other people to feel totally self-aggrandized and maybe even arrogant and doing mean things to others. So there's so many things in play. I mean, you start to understand now, between the past lives and the ancestral lineage, you start to get a scope of where this buildup in this subconscious mind might have come from. And we understand why this compounded momentum in the nature of the law and this karma is something to be reckoned with. It's like it's going to show up unless we do the energy work and the healing work to begin to dissolve away the negative impact that causes us to keep thinking in the same direction, thereby causing the same patterns over and over again. Your ancestral lineage has occurred, right? Has happened. And those people have done things, and it caused each generation to pick up certain habits of thought, certain beliefs, certain tendencies of action or inaction, certain beliefs about themselves, their role in society. And all of this gets passed down, passed down, passed down. Some even say in the DNA or the cellular memory, as well as just literally from parent to child, parent to child, parent to child, grandparents to children, and so on and so forth. And so that buildup, depending on the soul, you may or may not pick up on some of those things. But if you're an open sponge, like in early childhood, which we're getting ready to talk about, then you might not have the wherewithal to withstand the imprint of those types of things. And so in early childhood, we come in, and for the first 7 years, we are literally like little sponges in delta brainwave. And so as little sponges, we're picking up the tendencies, thought forms, preferences, desires, modes of operation, ways of being, attitudes, beliefs, belief systems, how things work or seem to work, what your grown-ups around you think is reality, how they think about you, what they tell you you are, what they tell you you're not, and so on and so forth. So in delta brainwave, we're like little sponges, which means basically the subconscious mind is just soaking that stuff in and taking it as reality. So that is a major way we get re-imprinted in this lifetime. Now, if you think about a healthy culture, in a healthy culture with healthy parents and a wonderful society, that would be a very good function, because you basically get indoctrinated into the culture without having to go through loads and loads of training. You're just literally immersed in it, and therefore you embody it. Now, when the culture becomes unhealthy, or the parents are variously not aligned with spiritual highest calling or values or ability to withstand their own temptations or overcome their own habits or overcome their own traumas, then you might bear the brunt of some of that in early childhood. And therefore, those things, whatever happened to you, whatever you learned from them and their misunderstanding, would still be conditioned in. And so it takes a good deal of personal work to overcome these things, but that's why we're here doing what we're doing. And it's a good thing. So we, again, forgive everyone. Nobody meant to do all that. They were all doing the best they could. We love our ancestors. We love our parents. And we sometimes do need to do the forgiveness work with those particular individuals because of some of this buildup that we're talking about. But that's exactly what we'll have the opportunity to do here. The fourth aspect is cultural conditioning. And this is a vast topic in and of itself. It's basically the norms, the beliefs, the activities, what reality is felt to be or not be of a culture is something larger that we are also immersed in, the expanded out from our home in early childhood, we've got this culture that we're in that's local, state, national, planetary, and even subcultures within those sectors, all of which have their own media, have their own beliefs, preferences, tendencies, desires, things they tolerate or don't tolerate. And those also imprint us because of repetition over time. And regardless of whether these things are true or not true, we might be imprinted with them. So we can end up having beliefs that are completely untrue, but we believe them so much that we operate as if they're real and possibly even collectively manifest them. So cultural conditioning is a force to be reckoned with as well. And again, when we do the mighty work of our own clearing for ourselves, we are countering these things and we are beginning to question what reality is like and start to understand it from our own experience and from our own study. And this is self knowledge. This is where power comes from. So when we comprehend all these places where we might be conditioned, what we're basically setting ourselves up to do is operate with knowledge as we go forth to do these clearings. So there you have it.